Number 49.
Is that the number of episodes that we've done?
This is the 49th episode.
Wow.
Welcome.
Wow.
You know what that means? You know what that means?
It's the end of the world soon.
That next week is the 50th episode.
We haven't even given any thought. This is like a completely brand new thought. We haven't put any thought into this.
Yeah.
What are we going to do for the 50th?
Celebration, fireworks.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, something. We'll after the show, we'll talk. We don't need to bore our
well, maybe we could get some, people might have some requests or ideas for us if they want to type in all these people that are watching us live. You can't type it in if you're listening to the podcast. We understand that.
Yeah. We
know how this works.
50 first dates we could do. And then you would jump off a building, I think.
No, because actually it's got Adam Sandler in it.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a supporter of Adam Sandler.
Okay, me too. I like Adam Sandler.
I'm not ironic. I think he's more than like him. I think he represents one of the best things going in Hollywood and has for a long time.
Very talented young man,
including his movies on Netflix. Hubie Halloween was quite literally one of the best things that happened to me during the lockdown.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Oregon Sunshine is here. I'm not sure who that is.
Hey, Oregon Sunshine. Hello to you. Hello back.
Now, I did hear in some chat before the show started, our friend Stephen Jules Rubin told me that Shannon Zelazny may be watching the show tonight. And Shannon Zelazny is the daughter of Roger Zelazny, who wrote the short story from which tonight's movie.
Oh, wow.
Not the short story, a novella.
I thought it was a novel or a novella.
It was a novella, and then it was expanded into a novel.
Cool.
And became this movie.
Oh, wow. I would be fascinated to know what their thoughts are on this film version.
Well, we will hopefully we'll get to that. Let's do our little pre-show though.
Okay, let's do a pre-show.
How you doing?
I'm good. You know, busy as usual, trying to keep busy. You know, it was a sad day for some of us. Dusty Rhodes from ZZ Top passed away today.
Oh,
which was a sad time for me, being a ZZ Top fan.
Yeah.
So that was sad. Other than that, I'm doing fine.
Okay, that's too bad. I'm getting ready for a trip to Chicago day after tomorrow.
Oh, this is actually happening now. My God.
We're going to Chicago to talk to people about our booze.
How long are you gone?
Just leaving Friday, coming back Monday. Stephen wants to know if you've been traveling through time and space with your glasses.
Stephen, Jules, Damnation Alley is a very dangerous and brightly lit 70s place, and I like to try to conform to the genre if I can, if it's in the wardrobe. Thanks for noticing. I am traveling in time space right now.
And have you been watching anything this week other than this movie?
I have seen some great stuff this week. I saw a movie that I love that it was really hard to find for a long time, called From Beyond. It's a horror movie from the 80s based on an H.P. Lovecraft story. And I think it's like one of the best H.P. Lovecraft movies out there. Stuart Gordon film, the guy who did Reanimator, did it. Jeffrey Combs, I believe his name is, the kind of the mad scientist in this again, a different kind of mad scientist. Anyway, From Beyond is great. And I finally tracked it down on a streaming service and was delighted.
Oh, fantastic.
It held up. And what else? Old stuff, Spider Baby got me on a kick. So I watched a movie called Kathy's Curse, which I highly recommend to people if they haven't seen it.
Okay.
Canadian poltergeist haunted little girl movie, which I loved.
Yeah. All right.
And a movie called The Initiation, starring
I'm already scared. That's
Daphne.
all.
You should be. Daphne Zuniga.
Oh, well, okay. And now I'm going to watch it because
Clu Gulager, 80s sorority slasher movie par excellence. Just
long time crush on Daphne Zuniga.
Well, she's great. She's really good in it. So I watched a lot of Spider Baby inspired stuff. How about you?
I've been watching this network show, as I do sometimes. I'll get on a kick of some network shows. Big Sky, serial killer type show taking place in Montana, the big Sky country. But what's fun about it is John Carroll Lynch is in it. And I'm
you mentioned this on the show last week.
I meant, oh darn it. See, okay. Well, then we're rewinding.
I was thinking, why do I know this? And I was like,
because I haven't
been
watching anything.
I listened to this podcast called The Arkin Brothers Talk About Movies, and this guy told me about the show on the podcast.
Oh, okay, cool. Interesting. All right.
You're still watching that?
I'm still watching it. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of episodes. So
you're getting ready to go on a business trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't be bothered with television shows.
Oh, all right. Okay. So, do you know, did you ever see a play called The Play That Goes Wrong?
Is that Noises Off?
It's similar to Noises Off. But it takes place instead of backstage. It's actually the show. You're watching the show, and everything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong continuously. And I haven't seen the play. I've seen a 10-minute clip of it from a benefit they did for the Royal Society of Benefits or something over in across the pond. But I thought of that play frequently while I was watching this movie.
I thought of Noises Off. That's funny.
Because something went wrong. And, I want to, because I'm cognizant of the fact that the daughter of the author of the book upon which this is based may be watching. I haven't read the novella. I have read at this point now a lot about the novella, and I want to go read the novella now, because my sense is that whatever is wrong with this movie has to do with things that happened after the novella was written, not the novella.
That would be my guess as well. That would be my guess. I can't imagine I mean, we can't just say the writer. Can we find out what this? I don't know if the writer is a man. You said based on
the writer of the novella is a man, Roger Zelazny,
from the novel. Okay, there we go. So so Roger Zelazny, even if he was happy with the production, which I'm sure he had a few problems with it.
My understanding is that he was not.
I can't imagine that he was happy with the fact that it came out in 1977, right after Star Wars.
Okay, yeah, we got to talk about the two other movies that came out that year. Two other science fiction movies came out that year, right?
Well, I know one was Star Wars,
and the other was Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
There's a little bit of a competition there to this, and the quality level. There was a jump in quality level that they weren't expecting, I guess.
Yeah.
It was like they got the guy who couldn't get the job for the original Dr. Dolittle movie to do this. Stephen Jules Rubin says, she says something went wrong. She says you are correct about the problems coming after the productions. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. This was like watching a jump. The fact that these movies came out in the same year, it's like them and Star Wars. Actually,
Them
I
is a
think,
great
was
movie,
better.
though. Them is a
Yeah.
really well made film.
Yeah.
This is different.
Well,
Well, look, let's we're jumping in here. We have another person that potentially you may have to apologize for, because I haven't thrown my hat into the ring about this film yet. You have apparently definitely decided that you're not a fan, I guess.
Well, but I had a great time watching it.
Okay, good. Good. Because that's, I did too. And that's the point. This I should say this was a recommendation from a friend of the show and a friend of mine. Eric Jensen said you guys should do Damnation Alley, and I'd heard of it, but I'd never seen it, and so it came through him, and that was the recommendation. I don't know if it's his favorite movie in the world. I don't think so. I'm sure he loved it as a child. There's things about it I love dearly now. But that being said, Damnation Alley. Yes. Damnation Alley from 1977. It is, I would say, is it safe to say it's a nuclear Armageddon film? That's the genre of film. It's a kind of a post-apocalyptic film. In a way, you could have a double bill with this and the Road Warrior.
Yes.
Or the second one. It would be a great double bill.
Yes.
But you wouldn't want to follow the Road Warrior with this. You probably see this first, or see this after the mushrooms took hold. As they did for whoever did the matte work on the skies and the backgrounds of this film.
Yeah, pretty extraordinary. So the two main protagonists, George Peppard and Jan Michael Vincent, are missile control officers at a base in some California, New Mexico, Nevada location. The guys who turn the keys and launch the missiles when the codes come through. And lo and behold, the codes come through and the whole world blows up. Cut to 2 years later, people living in the underground base, and we learn that the base gets blown up
in a spectacular fashion.
In a spectacular fashion, in an accident, and we learn the moral of the movie is that smoking and reading Playboy causes catastrophes, because
I thought it was a seriously anti-pornographic message that they were sending with this film.
Don't smoke and look at Playboy, or your world will come to an end.
And also on top of that, don't have giant tubes of exposed gas coming out of every room in your compound,
right?
Either, in case somebody does light a match or set something on fire.
Right. And poor Murray Hamilton.
What is going on?
Catches on fire
before he had any dialogue. He was killed.
Yeah. But then George Peppard, because he's and another fellow who also dies early in the movie, they build the Landmaster, which is a giant vehicle that can go across desert and boulders and mountains and in water and everything. And they're going to use it to go. He's going to leave with this ragtag group. It's him and Paul Winfield and one other officer and Jan Michael Vincent, and they're going to go to Albany from the southwestern part of the United States.
Well, they're getting a message from a possible ragtag group somewhere else, some survivors, and that they believe is in Albany,
right,
New York. To which I say, I'd rather die in a nuclear holocaust
and go to Albany.
I mean, I think Albany's not the answer to anybody.
To anything. And along the way, they encounter giant lobsters.
I thought they were scorpions.
They are scorpions, but they look like lobsters to me.
Okay.
They look like giant lobsters.
They were very lobsterish.
Yeah. Purple skies.
Well, all kinds of colored skies. Yeah.
Big storms. killer cockroaches.
Swarms of cockroaches, like millions of them.
It was actually a rug of cockroaches. It was a cockroach rug
literally
that comes after them. And then they bump into a very young Jackie Earle Haley, who was nice to see.
And a young Dominique Sanda.
Dominique Sanda. Yeah.
Who plays a Montrealer, a jazz singer from Montreal who's stuck in Las Vegas.
I think she's a chanteuse in Vegas, right? And then they run into the guys from Deliverance briefly.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally, you know that.
Is that really some of the actors?
Dude, I'm telling you, yeah. And this says something about me that I've seen the Deliverance this many times that the second you see the whole group of hillbillies in this movie come into a shot, I'm like, oh my God, that's the same guy from the Deliverance playing the same guy in the same costume.
What? Wait, did you IMDb this? Was it the guy?
I did. The guy is named Simon Glass. And he was the guy. He was the person who attacks Ned Beatty in the Deliverance.
Oh my God!
Yes.
I was making a joke, and I happened to be right.
Oh, I thought you looked it up too. No, you were right.
I was just making a joke.
Absolutely correct. That was the same guy.
Oh my gosh!
10 years later, looked exactly the same, doing the same role.
Well, let me ask you a question before we get into the critiquing the story and everything. I saw this on a horrible print. Was your print terrible?
Yeah, it was disastrous. I mean, it was the worst.
And did the aspect ratio change between the pre-apocalypse and the post-apocalypse?
Yeah, the whole title sequence was in another aspect ratio.
And then suddenly it turned into an episode of like the Rat Patrol.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's because they could. Yeah. They did some horrible pan and scan nightmare to it. And it was a disaster.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not crazy. I mean,
you saw it on Prime, Amazon Prime, I guess, which is where I saw it. And that print they have there is awful. And I don't know. I'm hoping that there's a 4K version of it somewhere. I'd love to see what it looks like.
Now I thought, so now let's get into the movie. I thought, at the beginning of the movie, I thought they did some amazing character development work. Because at the beginning of the movie, Jan Michael Vincent and George Peppard are showing up for their shift at the missile silo, and they have to switch off with the guys who are in there. So they go in, they have to show their IDs, and then they have to sign out their weapons because each missile control officer has to have a gun so that you can kill the other guy, apparently, if he's not going to carry out his orders or whatever. So they're signing out their weapons, and they're Jan Michael Vincent is checking his weapon, and he's checking it really close to George Peppard, and George Peppard bumps into him and gives him a look like how irresponsible he was to be checking his weapon that way. And I think that's sort of the sum and substance of the character development in the movie. That told us everything we needed to know, and we're not going to do anything. Yeah,
it pretty much covered it. It did. Yeah, you got all you need to know.
Okay.
Oh, there's an older guy and a younger guy. Okay.
And the younger guy gave the older guy gave the younger guy a look. Okay, got it.
So many questions, man. I have so many questions. Did you see this in the theaters?
No.
Do you remember when it came out?
No.
I remember it's like the title is really famous for some reason. Like I know this title so well, and I thought it was a different movie completely. I did no research on this. I just went in cold. So I was expecting like a Vanishing Point kind of movie, or like a Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, like car races across. I just thought like a Gumball Rally, some kind of movie or something.
Right.
I was completely blindsided by the nuclear holocaust, as probably most people are when a nuclear holocaust happens. So in that way, it was very effective. I was surprised that it happened, and I think if it really happened, I'd also be quite surprised. So that was realistic, my reaction.
Yeah.
I don't really know what to say though, because I think that this was directed by
Jack Smight.
It was directed by Jack Smight. I'm just going to say, I'm like, Jack Smight, whatever pills he was taking during the making of this film, I want to try them. I want to know what that feels like. To not care at the level of not caring that Jack Smight had about this film while he was making it and risking his own life and everybody else's life. I just don't feel like he was. I don't think his temperature went above, a cool 96 degrees, and he was completely carefree. It's a completely schizophrenic nightmare.
The movie?
Yeah. It's a completely schizophrenic nightmare. What's your favorite line from the movie?
Well, one of my favorites is I don't know what we're going to find, but getting there is the only way we'll ever know. And then I also, darn it, I forgot to print it out. I typed out a whole bunch of dialogue, but it's on my other computer. If you want to entertain the audience for a minute, I'll run and get my other computer so I can read the.
I'm fearless. I'll sit here in silence.
Don't sit there in silence. I'm going to run and get another computer.
Oh wow! So my brothers left me alone here, manning the whole show by myself, which is a disastrous idea. A really, really bad idea. He's here. Okay, fantastic. Wow.
That was scary, huh?
The professionalism here for both of us is just at a maximum.
But here, I wrote out a whole thing of dialogue here that I loved. Couple of things. Okay, my favorite scene, bar none. They're driving along. Dominique Sanda has joined the group. They're driving in the Landmaster. And George Peppard says, better look for some gas in Salt Lake before we try to go over the Rockies. And Jan Michael Vincent says, all right. And Dominique Sanda says, you mean the Rocky Mountains? And George Peppard says, mm-hmm. And she goes, wonderful.
It is a carefree bunch on the road to oblivion. It really is.
And then following her saying that about the Rocky Mountains, George Peppard says, posted a shower schedule to help conserve water and generally straighten out who goes when, give you some privacy. So I'm happy to say we can all have a shower once a week, whether we need it or not.
Yes.
So just some great dialogue.
I think that was an attempt at humor. No?
Humor and maybe setting something up. Like there's going to be some sexual tension between the handsome guy, Jan Michael Vincent, and the beautiful woman, Dominique Sanda. No, nothing ever.
I have to say that was a surprise. I was like, you won through the trouble of finding a chanteuse for the movie and getting her and bringing her on board with all these randy piratish men driving across the country, and you're not even going to bring up the fact that they might hook up. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of refreshing actually, but it was just a surprise. I was just surprised.
And then the final line that I loved was on the walkie-talkie. Tanner, this is Denton. This whole town is infested with killer cockroaches. Repeat, killer cockroaches.
Yeah, that's a good one as well.
Yeah.
That's a good one. My favorite, you want to hear my favorite line?
Yeah, I would love to.
My favorite line literally is is a moment is the fact that there's nothing said at a moment when there should be. In fact,
What was that?
One of the main characters, who is arguably the best actor in the movie. I mean, I think probably inarguably Paul Winfield is the best actor anywhere near this film.
Yeah.
Except for the guy from The Deliverance. Paul Winfield is a great actor. He looks like he's just happy to be, in a movie, but he's a main character. And they rescue him at one point and go through life and limb to rescue him and bring him back on board. And they may be the only three people in the whole world at this point. And they go to get gas, and Paul Winfield gets attacked. Spoilers here. So please, people, if you haven't seen it, stop this podcast and watch the film at least up until this moment, and then come back. There's killer cockroaches, and they swarm this town that they're getting gas in, and they eat Paul Winfield's face and kill him. They eat him, like pick his bones clean in moments. Yeah. And then George Peppard's driving the bus. He realizes this. He picks up the other guy, who's Jan Michael Vincent. And they drive off, and they say nothing about the death of their friend.
Yeah,
it's not even mentioned. It doesn't come up even as an aside. Jan Michael Vincent doesn't say, "Hey, what happened to Keegan?"
Yeah, not a word.
They don't even ask.
And Paul Winfield, who I have to mention, in an apocalypse movie, they're still dressing the black guy like he's a 42nd Street pimp in the movie. He's got bell-bottom jeans and a hat with a feather in it. What is that about?
I don't know, but my cat has definitely got something to say about it. Stop it.
Stephen Jules Rubin wants to know, well, when your friend gets eaten, what would you say?
I would say, where's Keegan? Where's that guy we just rescued? Is he coming or not? Yeah.
And then let's just get into some technical movie making stuff.
Please, no.
No?
No, let's go ahead.
Like
sure.
Technical story stuff. Okay. We're going to have, as he's getting eaten and Jan Michael Vincent is motorcycling around exploring the town with Dominique Sanda on the back, we're going to have lots of close-up establishing shots of cockroaches on his boots and jeans as they ride back into the land dozer, whatever, landmaster.
Mm-hmm.
Plot point, right? Oh, there's some cockroaches on his jeans and they're riding back into the land. No, never. No, nothing ever happens. No, never.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah. Oh yeah, no. You mean connective tissues between scenes and stories? No, you mean like a developing plot line? Like no.
The great moment right before that, when Dominique Sanda and Jan Michael Vincent are in the department store, and he wanders away from her, and he suddenly hears a scream, blood-curdling scream from her, and we cut to her, and she's looking at one of the cockroaches on a mannequin, but she's looking at it calmly with a smile on her face. So I don't get what was going on.
What was going? I think this movie was edited in an emergency, like in a flash flood somewhere in a basement. And they had a number. They just did it like after the first screening. They sent some lady down into a basement. They're like, cut 30 minutes out of this thing. I don't care how you do it. I don't care where it comes from. And I think that's what happened, because there had to be a line from somebody about a major character's dead. Like there's not even a mention of it. That had to be in a script somewhere. I'm sure it was in the story. The novella.
But there are things that don't have to do with editing, like when they find Jackie Earle Haley, and he's throwing rocks at Jan Michael Vincent sitting on top of the landmaster, and Jan Michael Vincent can see him, and he's throwing the rocks from 40 yards away, and they all hit Jan Michael Vincent, and he doesn't see the rock coming and, go like, lean to the side or something. He just sits there so it can hit him. I'm sorry.
I don't know. You're picking some esoteric things to do here.
These are complicated things. Yeah.
I mean, I know, because there's so many the problems are so much of that. There's like giant, chasms of problems. That is one. I think there's another problem in that scenario. Jackie Earle Haley runs from them and runs from them and runs from them, and then they gets into a fight with Jan Michael Vincent, and then cut to he's eating soup and they're all hanging out.
Yeah.
So I don't know why were you running? Are you afraid of us? It's never brought up.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
What else do we have? Oh, the going to Salt Lake and for gas and walking up to the gas pump to pump gas from it. Civilization has ended. Why? There's no electricity. Why do you think the gas pumps are on? This is a surprise.
Look, I have to stop you because I'm confused. My questions have more to do with why is George Peppard dressed like Super Mario Brothers? Is this the beginning of the Super Mario Brothers origin story? Because the giant scorpions, I think, are like Super Mario Brothers. So I think that makes sense. Why is the best scene in it him shaving with an electric razor? Why is that? How does a real mustache? How does a real mustache look more like a wax mustache than one you'd find in a magic store? These are the questions I had. How does a Texas Instruments calculator run a Bassmaster? I don't understand that. There's literally a shot where they're looking at the dashboard of this giant, fancy, all-terrain monster behemoth truck, and there is the same calculator I had in sixth grade.
And they built that for the movie, and I'm how I went last week to go see the house from Spider Baby.
Yeah,
I'm gonna drive out into the desert and see the Landmaster. You can see it. It's there.
Where? It's like Joshua Tree somewhere?
Yeah, it's somewhere out in
out in Barstow.
Yeah, it's out in that area, and
you look for Feldspar and find the Bassmaster.
Yeah, and but that thing was. Here's a question: that thing was real. They really built it. It could really do all that stuff. Go in the water, go over rocks, and amazing.
To be clear, the movie didn't build it. I thought they bought it from a company that had built it. I think
it was built for the movie.
Wow.
It was only one, and it was built for the movie, and it looks fake.
It does. It looks fake, and it looks like it couldn't do any of it.
Times where you go, wow, I'm looking at the real thing, and it's really doing all that stuff, and it still looks like a model.
Well, it doesn't help that the interior is very much like a Winnebago, like a deluxe camper Winnebago.
Yeah. But I love the family sequence. The family sequence with the shaving, Dominique Sanda in the shower washing her hair, Jan Michael Vincent taking a nap, Jackie Earle Haley learns how to drive the Landmaster. Dominique Sanda starts cooking something. George Peppard is in his bunk reading a science fiction novel or something. A nice, happy family sequence.
I was stunned by something. About? I was stunned by something in this movie. I've never seen a film about a nuclear holocaust, about like a post-apocalyptic scenario where people are, civilizations ended and there's a ragtag groups of survivors wherein there isn't any grief or real sadness or sense of loss of humanity or really anything at all from any of the characters. They basically are just kind of like on autopilot to just get to Albany, and that fact that they're just still alive seems to be the only thing that matters.
Yeah. It's sort of as if this happened now, because I think if this happened now, we would feel that way. We'd feel like, oh, this is just it's Tuesday.
I guess I there's something about it that I find deeply confusing, because I feel like there's a read on this movie that I have no idea whether it was intentional or not, and I really would be interested to know about the kind of politics maybe of the novella. Now, of course, nobody's pro-nuclear holocaust. That's not obviously what would be on the menu, but there's something so incredibly pro-American and pro-American cowboyism, to the point where I don't know if it's actually a satire on it that just isn't well done, or
Right.
if they really believed in these characters as being heroic figures. Because, I mean, let's break it down. The heroes of this movie are literally the people that pushed the buttons that destroyed their half of the planet.
And
Okay?
did so without a moment's
hesitation, or they didn't break a sweat.
No.
Didn't break a sweat. It's just the job. It's what they do. And then, okay.
In contrast to a movie that had come out 10 years earlier that has sort of the same moment in it, Failsafe, where
it happens in Doctor Strangelove.
And Doctor Strangelove, where they're like, Jesus Christ, we're doing this?
No,
we
they
have
don't
to do this? Is it happening? No, these guys are like, oh, it's another day at work. We're blowing up the world.
They're incredibly cold-blooded. And I mean, that's also reflected in them not having any response to Paul Winfield staff at all. Jan Michael Vincent is either like this. I don't know if they intended him to be a Mark Hamill-esque 70s, just, young studly kid who was, that crazy kid. Or if they were trying to make make fun of this iconic American concept, because his lines in it are all about looking at a dead, empty car lot and telling the child yeah, cars, man, that's your legacy. He says all this Top Gun shit in it, all about the wonder of Las Vegas, man. It's well, you could just see it at night. Wow, he's banal. He is bought completely the American advertisement. This guy, he does wheelies on motorcycles, and he's happy as long as he can just kind of drive shit fast. And I don't know if the makers of the movie knew that or not. I have no idea, because it's also his utopia, which, spoiler alert, again, stop, see the movie, come back to the podcast. I'll give you time to do that.
Actually, don't.
They get to Albany, and the fulfillment of his dream is arriving in the whitest town with white picket fences and a bunch of people running to greet him for doing nothing more than just showing up after having blown up the earth. I just simply can't figure out what the intentions are here. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think there were. I think there might. That's why I want to read the novella.
Me too.
And I don't want to. And I want to try and actually find the novella, because apparently the novella is really good. And from what I understand, Zelazny was very proud of the novella, but then his agent had him expand the novella into a novel, because it would make it more sellable as a movie, to make it novel length. But the reviews and stuff that I've read of the novel are that it was better as a novella. It didn't expand out in. So I want to get hold of the novella and find out what was it that Zelazny was doing, because from what I've read about Zelazny, he was a much lauded author of science fiction, some poetry as well. Did this whole series called the Amber series, which is worshipped by a lot of people. Neil Gaiman says that Zelazny was his primary influence.
Wow.
Or one of his primary influences. So clearly this guy, naturally speaking, tells us that Roger Zelazny was once asked, "What do you think about them ruining the book?" He replied something to the effect, "They didn't ruin the book. They made a crappy movie. The book is still good."
I love that.
That is awesome.
I love that.
Made it worth watching that movie and doing this episode of the show to get that piece of information and that perspective, because I'm going to use that line.
It's a great attitude. That's an attitude that I wish I'd heard more authors have about being in movies. For instance, Stephen King comes to mind when he talks so graciously about The Shining film, which certainly didn't hurt his career either.
Right.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Thank you for shouting out to us on that one.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And I'm gonna go on eBay or wherever I have to go to get hold of a copy of Galaxy so that I can read that novella, because I am intrigued by this question. What was there has to have been something there for them to have wanted to make the movie. And then my understanding is that from other stuff that I've read, there's a lot of relationship stuff that was shot, that was in the book and was shot and was all edited out of the movie to turn it into this road trip film.
That's what I mean. That's clearly the vibe I got from it, was that there's just so many jaw-dropping mistakes in judgment here and jump cuts and stuff that it had to be severely edited. But I'm really curious about, I'm going to guess what the politics of the book are, only because knowing, poets and science fiction writers, many of them would be kind of like at least skeptical of the military, to people that blow up stuff. And if not, it is a fantastic idea for sci-fi, which I'm going to guess the book had to come out years before the movie was made. Do you know when it was? Do you remember when it was published?
Yeah, I can find out. Sorry, I've got it here. You keep talking.
I can keep talking. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm just curious if it's from the 50s or the 60s. I guess that would be an interesting thing to find out. But it's a really cool idea. Like, it's a classic. It's like Buck Rogers, but on planet Earth, kind of. Yeah. From that perspective. And I mean, so I could see this either being a really, really just fun space opera romp that takes place here, or it could be a really like a real politically minded parable. I could see either, and either would be fine. I think for me, I'd enjoy both. But this movie hasn't decided what the hell it is. And
the novella was 1967.
Okay, well, then counterculture's already going on. Mm-hmm. When he's writing this movie, this is going to be probably critical, I would think, of the forces that do this, and the country, the politics of the countries that would do this. So, I mean, I just the raw nature of this, like, this is just like, it's like Top Gun attitude about nuclear war in this film. It's the most cavalier, like, callous attitude about the destruction of everything I've ever seen in a movie. I mean, even Planet of the Apes at least has, like, Chuck Heston being, kind of emotionally distraught about all of this, although he doesn't know where he is for a while.
No.
That all this being said, yes, complaints. I want to thank Eric Jensen for bringing this movie into my life. This has been a great awakening for me. I didn't know this movie existed, and the fact that there's a movie with Jan Michael Vincent jumping dirt bikes over giant scorpions that I didn't know was here, it blows my mind.
Still think they were lobster. I wanted those guys with some drawn butter. I would have just been going to town.
It's very hard to draw butter.
Oh, gosh. The other thing, I have a question for you. Dominique Sanda is explaining why she survived the blast. And it's because the casino owner who had brought her to Vegas and in whose casino she's working wanted a favor from her, in quotes. And so he took her down to the bomb shelter to seduce her. And that's when the blast happened. So that's why she survived. So my question is, why, if you own a casino in Vegas and you're trying to seduce the Chanteuse who you've brought from Montreal, don't you have any number of suites of rooms in your Vegas casino hotel that you can take her to? You're going to take her to the bomb shelter? You're going to mock me for even bothering to analyze.
I'm surprised. I never thought to think of that. Let me put it that way. Again, I had so many questions running through my head. Here's where I think here's an interesting scene though. That preceding that, there's a scene that I thought was actually, I mean,
I know what you're
the best scene in the movie. It's the smartest scene. It's an interesting scene, and it's the scene in the casino.
Yeah.
And they all get to Vegas, which has been bombed out, and they drive up to the Circus Hotel.
Right. And it's just the three of them. It's Jan, Michael, Vincent, George Peppard, and Paul
Winfield, who hasn't died yet. So they get there and they walk into the casino, which is like the corner set from a Batman episode that they just cleared out and put some slot machines in, and
sprayed dust on it. They sprayed dust on it.
Yeah, but then they start kind of like goofing off and playing the slots, and you can hear slowly in the soundtrack, you can hear the sounds of a real casino, of like a with a lot of people in it. Yeah. Kind of coming up in the soundtrack. And they get lost in this moment of kind of like reliving something fun from the past, and they're all excited, and some of them are winning stuff and some of them aren't, but then that's when the girl appears, I guess.
Right.
And breaks them out of their reverie. But
right, that's the only reference in the movie to the civilization that's gone and missing anything. But what it is that they miss is the most shallow bullshit part of America and the world.
Yeah. So like I would not be surprised at all if that scene is something in the book that is really descriptive of something about the American character that he's being critical of, like, of all the things you could get excited about, after not grieving any of this, but then get thrilled by gambling, which couldn't be any more useless an activity after money's worthless. I mean, there's nothing about that activity that's positive. It's not a positive, thing, although it's very realistic. But what does that say about these guys? And then it's gone. Like the moment happens in the movie, and then that evaporated, and then we're right back to I couldn't tell you what they're trying to tell me about this world or these people or any. I just couldn't tell you.
Right.
Are we rooting for them? Is this an ironic thing? I just didn't know.
I also have another question. Again, you can mock me for paying attention to these kinds of things, but Jan Michael Vincent rides the motorcycle into the department store with Dominique Sanda to look around, and the killer cockroaches attack. And instead of riding to get away from the killer cockroaches, instead of riding out of the department store, he drives the motorcycle up the stairs.
Yeah.
To get away from them.
Yeah.
Why not leave the department store?
Well, because there's cockroaches. They're all over the place.
Another thing, again, mock me. When they're leaving the base, there's an interesting moment where George Peppard lowers the American flag, right, and folds it, because that's what you do when you're abandoning a base. And then you cut the halyard so that if enemy forces come, they can't use the halyard to raise the flag back up. right? But all he does is cut the halyard, and then he walks away. If you cut the halyard, they can use, but don't pull it down. You can still use it to raise a flag. You just repair it, right? So that's the kind of thing that pissed me off, that on every level they didn't stop and think about anything. They didn't.
But couldn't that also though be an interesting thing if it were on purpose? He goes through the routine, but what's the point of cutting the halyard if there is nobody else that's going to raise a flag?
Exactly. Right.
But again, you don't know if Jack Smight understood that, or that he was getting a cocktail and like worried about, how everybody's hair looked. I have no idea. It's amazing. But yet again, how could we be it seems ungenerous to be critical of any movie that gives you Jan Michael Vincent popping wheelies over giant scorpions. I mean, where has this been all my life? Where has it been? Why is we've made The Road, we've made all kinds of Wolverine apocalypse movies and Devastation. No one's mentioned this one before. It's crazy.
Can we give George Peppard an award for the worst Southern accent in the history of cinema?
Yes, because it was sometimes an accent from Maine. He couldn't decide whether he was a horse trainer or a lobster fisherman at any point during this, except that he was always Super Mario Brothers. Like that was on.
Oh God. Oh my gosh. Who do we have to? Anybody else we have to give a shout out to?
I want to give a shout out to the movie that starts with Jan Michael Vincent driving up with a mannequin, which he's probably going to use as a sex toy in the movie that's just never referenced again.
Okay. We give a shout out also to Dana House and Denise Michelle, who are the playmates that appear in the magazine in the movie that caused the whole thing to blow up.
You were sick individual.
No, it was in the trivia on IMDb. I didn't go looking that up.
Oh, okay.
It actually is in the IMDb.
Well, you need to say that because people don't know, they just think you zeroed in on that.
I went through my collection. No, Miss January 1976 and Miss April 1976 are Dana House and Denise Michelle have their moment of fame in this movie and cause the destruction of the missile base. Jan Michael Vincent, do you want to hazard a guess what he was paid for this movie?
I'm bad at this.
Me too.
Why would I know that?
No reason. $1 million.
Get out of here.
This was him breaking from 6 to 7 figures on this movie.
What had he done before this to break through that? What was it?
What had he done?
Why do I not know this? This is wrong. How could he have made $1 million in 1977 for this movie? What?
For this movie. It is unbelievably shocking.
Before this, he did White Line Fever. That was probably made some money.
Stephen Jules Rubin says, was it Vonnegut who said you can't have a naked mannequin in the first act who doesn't disappear by the third? I think it was.
I do too. Yes, Stephen, that's right. I don't understand. Okay, so I think he got $1 million because he had the goods on somebody and threatened somebody's life. It's, unless you give me $1 million, I won't do it. I don't know. That's crazy.
Oh, my buddy Ronell says, welcome to the world. Hey guys, he's back.
Hello there. Did you see Damnation Alley? No?
Yeah. Did you watch Damnation Alley, Ronell? If you didn't, run out, buy it.
My favorite thing about the movie, though, is that at the end of the film, they get to Albany, which looks a lot like Denver now after the apocalypse.
Right.
It's not how I remember Albany looking. with giant mountains and pine forests and lakes. I don't remember that.
Yeah, no.
But they're listening for the radio frequency, and they turn on this thing, and suddenly they hear music for the first time, and it's smooth California jazz. And I'm like, smooth Cali jazz survives the apocalypse. It lives on.
Yeah. And if that happened, you would kill yourself.
No, I'm a fan.
Oh, you are?
I love smooth jazz. It's fine by me, and I'm glad it survived.
I love how at the end of the movie, there is one big storm, and suddenly everything is fine again, and the world is beautiful.
Well, it's just as easily as you believe, like, 2 years after a giant nuclear apocalypse, they're out running around in a tank, meeting up with hillbillies. I mean, it's incredible. The science is amazing. The optical effects are fantastic. The skies are crazy. It's like a demo for Tommy. It's like something that they rejected from Tommy.
Yeah.
They're all on fire constantly. And it was like a choice. That was a choice that made their life so much more difficult. Like, I was looking at that idea, like, okay, if you haven't seen the movie, it's all outdoors in the desert, almost all of it. And so there's these vistas, and there's this sky that's visible through all of it. And the sky in every case is like this crazy old special effects, like rotoscoped sky with, some of the effects are cool, I guess. But if you can't marry it to Jan Michael Vincent riding on the motorcycle, it doesn't look very good. So it's jagged in every shot, like forever.
Yeah.
And you look at it and you're like, pointless. There's a completely pointless act. Like, it did nothing but distract from the movie. What's wrong? I mean, just put a filter over it. Like, why don't you just put like a green filter or something over the lens and then just shoot wherever you want?
And nobody, they don't talk about it.
No.
Talk about it a little bit. Jackie Earle Haley wonders about, when things are going to be, well, the earth was knocked off its axis, son.
George Peppard's mustache was crooked the whole time. This is what movie we're dealing with. But
okay, well,
what this was missing? This was missing, like, I wish Steve Reeves had been in this movie. Like, the $6 Million Man and the Sasquatch should have been in this show. And then it would have made complete sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm out of notes, man. I don't know what to say about this. Although I did laugh a lot. I did have laughs and wonderment.
This is a crazy movie. It's completely crazy. Again, they don't really know who the audience is. Like, the only person that's going to really be jacked about this movie is probably a 13-year-old kid, like a 13-year-old boy, because he's going to love the Desert Master truck that they built. That's cool. And it is cool. Like, it does cool stuff.
That is a cool truck.
They're going to want to see the scorpions and the cockroaches. And the movie's kind of famous for the cockroaches because there's a ton of them in there.
But there's no talk on their trip. There's no talk. Like, what's their objective? To get to Albany. But it's not like, I miss people. I want civilization. It's just, let's go to Albany. There's people.
Yeah. There. Well, I think that's what probably, that's either a conscious thing that they didn't make good on or a missed opportunity, because I think that'd be a fascinating movie to have these heroes who are just dead inside and this comment on all of it through their behavior. But I don't think they were paying attention to that here. So I don't even know what to say. I mean, this movie is really screwed in the head. I mean, it's like, it's weird. It's just strange.
We could have saved everybody a lot of time if we had just condensed this whole show down to, I don't know what to say.
Well, we did, though. We knew what to say. I think we hit on something very interesting. That who knows what is the attitude of the filmmakers here?
Right. What's the point of view? There was
I have no idea.
Point of view.
I don't, again, like, I don't I'm not one of these people that feels like my point of view has to be reflected in the movies that I see or even enjoy. It doesn't. I love a lot of movies made with a point of view that's different than mine, and sometimes I think, I'm glad the world isn't like that, but I like this movie. I just would like to know. Is this full on John Wayne, like, support the final surviving troops, who did the horrible deeds that nobody else would do, and they're tough guys, and give them a break, and they're good boys, maybe that was the idea. Or are they soulless, vacuous, genocidal maniacs who are just completely selfish in everything that they do? Either interpretation is completely valid.
But see, now that would be an interesting movie, that they get to Albany and then the people in Albany want to know who they are and where they're from. And the guys that they have to let them know we're the guys who turned the key. Or they have to keep it secret. Or
that would be fascinating. I'd love to know if that's in the book. Again, like the story is certainly not the issue here.
Well, I'm going to find a way to get hold of a copy of that issue of Galaxy, and I'll share it with you.
The only thing I do feel a little bit bad, because although we didn't have a lot to say, I do have to say it's a little hard to try to be analytical about a movie like this. Its enjoyment level, though, if you're looking for like a disaster movie, like just a crazy, what the fuck is this disaster movie? If you like 70s movies, track this down. It is completely entertaining. It is ludicrous beyond belief. It's pretty crazy, and some of it's like just ineptly bad, like filmmaking, and funny because it's inept. And then there's occasionally like, wow, you spent all this money and you got this giant truck to work, and that looks okay. Like, it's so schizophrenic, man. It's so schizophrenic. I will say, I think George Peppard and Jan Michael Vincent make a fantastic team. They worked off each other really well. Looks like they got along. No, it looks like they had a good working relationship, I think. You don't agree?
Yeah, they seem like they got along fine, but it was like two pieces of Wonder. You could say those two pieces of Wonder Bread got along great.
Yeah.
There was no chemistry. It was nothing.
There's nothing.
Nothing.
Not a thing.
Nothing going on.
I mean, there's a giant.
Poor Michael Vincent, had just a tough life, had a hard life after this.
Only 7 years of Airwolf.
Well, but terrible struggles with drugs and alcohol, intravenous drugs, alcohol, leg amputation. Just sort of slid into just a very sad life, and then passed away. Just not.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't know.
I had to bring you down at the end of the episode.
This is horrible. Now I've just trashed his performance in his movie, and I found out that he's a tragic figure, and I'm a horrible person.
Well, and then there's George Peppard, who Mom worked with George Peppard.
Yeah, what was that? Was that in the show PJ? Right,
a detective movie called PJ.
Mom, if you're watching and you're near a computer, let us know if he was fun to work with.
My recollection is that he was nice. I didn't meet him, but my recollection of her talking about that experience was that it was nice.
Well, he looks like a nice guy. He's got terrible taste in mustaches, but he's a great guy.
Terrible taste in mustaches, and also Galaxy, the short story, Dad's short story, People Soup, was first published in Galaxy.
That is right.
Which is kind of cool.
You were the star of the film People Soup. Let's not forget to add.
Well,
there was a film
co-star with that other guy.
That's still a star of the movie.
Yes, that's true. Co-star with the third biggest of the brothers.
The big brother who was on our show.
Was on our show
once upon a time.
Yeah, but
What are you gonna say? This is a movie with giant scorpions, and it's a movie with a giant floods at the end of the movie.
Mom pipes in. Yay! Thank you, Mom. She
Thanks, Mom.
says that he was very nice.
George Peppard was nice to work with. I'm very glad.
He seems like a nice.
He seems like a wonderfully charming man.
Yeah. Stephen Jules Rubin. You can say thank you, but she's not your mom. Although I love you like a brother.
I always found it funny that Peppard ended up in like movies like this and then the A-Team and stuff, vis-a-vis the fact that, Breakfast at Tiffany's, that's really his thing. I feel like that's really his vibe, Okay. So here we have another note from Naturally Speaking. As crappy as the film was, it gave RZ the money to add on a nice office to his house. Well, that's fantastic.
Well, that's a good thing.
I'm sorry it wasn't enough money to buy, a new house completely, but because I'm sure, I'm sure dealing with Hollywood at that level at that time on a giant George Peppard movie was very difficult.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Why was he from Maine and then from Tennessee? Why?
I don't know what that was. I don't know what was going on there. It was extraordinary.
And I gotta say, I love little Jackie Earle Haley. I thought he was great when he was a kid, and he's great now. He's actually one of those rare performers who, as a child actor, was actually kind of bringing it like as a real actor.
Yeah, he was good.
He was fantastic.
He's good. Interesting character.
Still love him. He's a great actor. And then that's all I got, man. I got Damnation Alley. I will be tracking it down to see if there's a 4K of this somewhere, because I'm just dying to know what it really looks like. This print was rough.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what it really looks like as well. All right. Well, we've got to chat after the show and figure out what we're doing for the big 50th celebration.
Yeah, we do. Keep looking at social to see what we'll be covering to catch up with here. But we got to pick a doozy.
Yeah, and thank you for watching, and thank you for piping in. Welcome to our new viewers. Tell your friends about the show and tell them that it's available on Apple Podcasts also, or wherever you get your ear candy. And we'll see you next week.
So long.
Good night.